welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake. Happy NFL kickoff, sort of, everybody. Hall of Fame game is tonight, and that will be the unofficial beginning of the 2024 NFL season. So happy to be joined by one of my favorite people in the world, my good friend, J.P. Acosta. Today, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Real football is almost back. I'm not calling the Hall of Fame game real football because it's barely football, but it's still professional football teams on a field play against people that aren't in the same helmets and
stuff. I don't care if it's going to be, Tyson Bagent against Davis Mills or, if none of the stars are going to be on the field. Last year, I made Dorian Thompson-Robinson made me $80 in the Hall of Fame game. So we'll see if I have such luck tonight in the Hall of Fame game. But today, JP and I will be looking ahead to the NFL season. Not so much talking about all of, the top tier teams and whatnot, although I'm sure that they will come up in some way, shape, or form. But rather, we're looking at the most interesting teams heading into 2024. Each JP and I will be drafting 5 teams, going back and forth, seeing who we think are the most interesting, having a little bit of a discussion on each of them in between picks. And then at the end, we can kind of look over each of our boards and see who has the best one. So in the light of you being the guest as usual, I will let you go first. Who is your most interesting team heading into 2024?
I'm going to start with a team that is the trendy pick for a team that didn't make the playoffs last year that's going to make the playoffs this year. I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts. I think their offense is going to be a light show if Anthony Richardson stays healthy. And honestly, the defense and Gus Bradley earned a lot of my respect last year. I think he changed up a little bit of his mantras defensively. He changed up the schematics of the defense. I've always said Gus Bradley will live and die by the Seattle cover 3. And to an extent, they still ran some of the most cover 3 in the league, but he changed it up to better benefit his personnel. DeForest Buckner is phenomenal. Grover Stewart is awesome. And they're also a growing group they're a good mix of youth and already established talent on that team where, like I said, they are the trendy pick to make the playoffs after missing it last year.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the guys that they brought back. Like Julian Blackmon was one of the more sought-after safeties in the free agent market. He stays put. Juju Brents was a guy they drafted that has high expectations as well. They were, a throw or two away last year from winning the AFC South with Gardner Minshew. And while Anthony Richardson is, looked at as more of a raw prospect, I think that it's safe to say I would take him comfortably over Gardner Minshew. And if he comes anywhere close to reaching that ceiling that he has, that is one of the more freakish quarterbacks in the NFL. We got a glimmer into what he could be in the first month of last season before he got hurt. Indy's very interesting. They clearly have the right guy in Shane Steichen at the helm, and having Richardson come in with Jonathan Taylor. They also drafted the Texas receiver whose name is escaping me right now. Yes, him. To go along with Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce. I think the passing game will be a little bit more fun as well. So Indy, definitely amongst the more, I would agree that the hipster picked of, okay, they were pretty close last year. They should be in this year.
Yeah, I think they are going to be a team where it might start off a little slow just because you're getting Richardson more reps. You want to make sure he's not getting hurt, but I fully expect them by midseason to look so dynamic, especially on the ground, where you have this multi-headed monster of Jonathan Taylor, of Anthony Richardson's legs. They got Josh Downs involved a lot. Yeah. I think Josh Downs is going to have a huge year now with Richardson healthy.
I love it. I'm going to stick in the AFC, and I'm going to have a total homer pick here because I think the Steelers are maybe the most interesting team in the conference and one of the more interesting teams in the league. The additions that they've made, have been labeled as very non-Steeler-like moves where they just scrapped the entire quarterback room. They got a new offensive coordinator. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields both coming in. Fields looks solid so far in training camp. Russ dealing with a calf, so they've really had Justin Fields working with the ones, and he's taken advantage of that. And just the thought of what they were last year, which was a complete and utter tire fire at the most important position in sports, at offensive coordinator. Their offensive line was also very, hit and miss. I like the potential of what they can be. I don't think they are going to be a Super Bowl caliber team, but the fact that they went 10-7 last year with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Matt Canada, offensive coordinator, they don't need Russ and or Justin Fields to be elite level quarterbacks. If they're the 18th or 19th best quarterback collectively in football and the defense lives up to its potential, they also added in Patrick Queen on defense, Peyton Wilson through the draft, who I think is going to be a stud. I really like what the Steelers can be this year. I think that they can end this drought of playoff winless football over the past 7 years. So I'm very intrigued by my favorite team, and I am very hopeful for what they can be in 2024.
I'm intrigued by the Steelers, but I have my doubts. I know the whole thought is if Russell Wilson and Justin Fields can be the 18th or 19th best quarterback in football, they will make the playoffs. Can they get to 18 or 19, though, is the question, because they have not been close to 18 or 19. They have been closer to 32 than they have been to 18 or 19. So I wonder how the new offense is going to mesh with Fields and Wilson and Arthur Smith. But I do think Arthur Smith is a good coordinator.
I agree.
A fine to good coordinator. Terrible head coach. Those are two separate things. Not everybody who is a coordinator should be a head coach, and not everybody who wants to be a coordinator wants to be a head coach. Like Ben Johnson probably don't want to be a head coach, but a great coordinator. I wonder what this offense is going to look like passing the ball, because a lot of it is middle of the field targets off of play action. I think Russell Wilson at this stage of his career needs to be a deep pocket, heavy play action, and let him still use the arm strength that he has to fire passes down the sideline vertically. Fields, I think he's interesting. He truly is an enigma of a quarterback. I think he's really good on rollouts. I think he's really good throwing across his body. It's just everything is a second too slow. So if you can get him to speed up the process, then maybe you have something there. But I'm intrigued by them. I think the defense, now that they're actually healthy and have real actual people at corner, could be interesting. But yeah, I have a lot of questions about what the Steelers are going to be this year.
I do too. And I've had questions about what they were going to be the past few seasons. The difference between my questions entering this season and say, 2022 and 23 are that I'm much more optimistic about what they could be this season than last year, where going into 23 is like, all right, Kenny Pickett, a guy who I thought wasn't going to be good when they drafted him. Matt Canada, not a good coordinator. At least now, you can look at it and say, okay, Arthur Smith from 2019 to 2020, the Titans had the second highest success rate in the NFL behind only Kansas City when he was running the show. I think that the offense is going to be tremendously better. It's a very low bar for them to clear. And defensively, in terms of what they have on that side of the ball with Watt and Highsmith and Patrick Queen and Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter, like they've got a ton of really good players at each level as well. So I think overall roster-wise, this is one of the more complete units they've had in a very long time, and I do find them very compelling, and I have very high hopes for this season. Your second pick.
My second pick, I'm really going down to the bottom here. The Arizona Cardinals. I am so curious at what the Arizona Cardinals are going to look like, because if you watched that offense from when Kyler Murray came back through the end of the season, they were pretty fun. They were pretty good. And one of the things that stood out to me was how much 12 and 13 personnel they used. I think they were top 15 in 12 personnel usage according to Sumer Sports, but they were top 10 in EPA per play out of 12 personnel. I think they were first in EPA per play out of 13. Let me check that real quick. But now you go in, and instead of having Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, and a bunch of dudes, you add Marvin Harrison Jr. to that. I think Elijah Higgins is going to be a really fun secondary tight end for them. He's kind of used to play receiver at Stanford, moved to tight end in the NFL draft process. Really fun receiving option. And then you get healthy Kyler Murray, who looked just as dynamic as he did before the injury.
Very good in the second half of the year.
Powerful running backs in James Conner. You also have, oh my gosh, I can't believe Trey Benson. You also have Trey Benson, and you can see it. You can see the vision for the Cardinals. They added Jonah Williams. I think Paris Johnson Jr. is going to stay at right tackle. At this point, I haven't heard if Paris Johnson Jr. is going to play left and Jonah's going to play right, but I think Jonah's playing left. Paris Johnson Jr. is going to stay at right tackle.
Because Jonah wanted to leave because he wanted to play left, right?
Yeah, Jonah left because he wanted to play left. But I'm really intrigued by what the Cardinals look like defensively. They're quirky defensively. They play a lot of 3 safety defense, which is going to get me. You're always going to get me if you play a 3 safety defense. I just think that's fun.
I think that if you look at, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but I think they led the league in 3 safety sets last year.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was fun and it kind of worked, but they don't have anybody to rush the passer. You're hoping Darius Robinson can do that, but he's a rookie going into this year. You're hoping you get something from your defensive line in terms of pass rush department, but they have a bunch of fun additions in that secondary. I think Budda Baker is still amazing.
Yep.
I think having Max Melton back there is really fun. You have a bunch of versatile, fun defenders. Dadrian Taylor-Demerson and Jalen Thompson. Those are your 3 safeties. Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, and Dadrian Taylor-Demerson. If you can play all 3 of those guys at the same time, that sounds really fun. Yep. So I'm intrigued by what they're going to throw as change-ups defensively, and if they can continue to carry out the high level of play that they had last year offensively. I think Trey McBride is going to have a huge breakout year. I wrote about him as one of my breakout players this year.
Drew Pensing did a lot of fun things for them offensively last year, both with and without Kyler Murray, and both somehow found ways to work at different times, obviously having to go through the different quarterbacks where you start the season with newly acquired Josh Dobbs and really having to, I don't want to say dumb down the offense, but make it simple. I think go back to the Dallas game where they just rammed the ball down their throats constantly in the run game. They are a very interesting team. I would definitely agree with that. I don't know how good they're going to be because I still think that this is a multi-year project that's going to take some time, but there is a clear vision in mind. Like you said, there's a proof of concept in mind. And I think the offense is going to be much more fun, obviously, with Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Wilson's a guy who's a very good deep threat out of Stanford to have quietly like a really solid rookie year last year. Trey McBride, I mean, guys are talking about him as being a top 5 tight end this season. I think that they have the pieces. They're a few pieces away defensively, but I think that they could be very fun. I would definitely agree with that for sure.
Yeah, I think they are going to be an incredibly fun team to watch. I think having Marvin Harrison Jr. there will open up so much of that middle area for Trey McBride. I think having Elijah Higgins is also going to help him get vertical. But again, Kyler looked really good coming off of injury. I think people forgot how good Kyler Murray is. And so this is going to be a good year for Kyler to kind of show, again, that he is one of the most athletic quarterbacks we've seen in the sport, but also that he is a pure thrower of the football.
I think in terms of just the biggest arms, he's still one of the 5 best just pure arms in the NFL in terms of power and velocity and how deep he can throw the ball. I'm hoping for a big year from Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals will be very fun. My second pick is not only a team that I think will be interesting, they are my pick to come out of the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. It is Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I'm so fascinated by not only what they did last year, but how that's going to carry over into this year. Obviously, Love is now, he's going to get paid. And you look at what they are offensively is, I'm trying to think of like a really good analogy. And I guess it would be the Beatles, where they have 4 dudes that are just really in sync with what they're doing. Having Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Jaden Reed. Like, they have 4 really solid receivers. Hopefully Christian Watson can stay healthy. They add Josh Jacobs to go with A.J. Dillon. Defensively, no more Joe Barry. They bring in Xavier McKinney. So I think that just by default, their defense will be better. I don't think it's going to be great, but I think it can be, a middle of the pack-ish defense. And just the way that Jordan Love looked in the second half of last year, because remember, it was kind of up and down to begin the season, where he had a really nice game against Chicago, threw 3 touchdowns against Atlanta, but they lose that game. And then from that until like week 9, week 10, it took a while to figure out. But in the second half of the year, I think it was first in EPA per play, first in adjusted EPA, first in touchdowns, first in everything. And he looked really good and came within, a few plays of getting to the NFC Championship game and defeating the 49ers in San Francisco. So I think that there is going to be a massive leap from the Packers this coming season. And I think Matt LaFleur proved to everybody that he is one of the better NFL coaches around the league and wasn't just leaning on Aaron Rodgers to be that. So I really like what Green Bay can be this year. They are my pick to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I think that they are a fascinating watch for 2024.
Yeah, I think I said going into the season, I think the Packers are going to have the best offense in the NFL statistically. Yeah. I think the biggest reason for their slow start was having the youngest roster in the league.
They're so young.
Everybody needed to learn how to play with each other. And then once they all started to get there, you saw the results. And now you're looking at them growing together. You have an improved offensive line. You add in Josh Jacobs now. Everything just seems to fit well for this offense to be one of the best offenses in the league. I think I still have a little bit of questions about their offensive line, but I mean, Matt LaFleur is one of the best play callers in the league. He has shown the ability to scheme around that. I'm more intrigued by the defense. I think bringing in Jeff Hafley from Boston College, he is going to transition that defense from being more reactionary to more attacking. They are going to be more assertive on defense. So, Joe Barry came from the Fangio, Brandon Staley, gap and a half, tight front, penny front, yada, yada, yada. Get that out of here. We want to be attacking, downhill, one gap. I think that's going to be a much better benefit to Kenny Clark. It'll help Devontae Wyatt out. It'll help Carl Brooks out. I think all of their defenders were better fitting for a one-gap defense than a two-gap defense. So now having Jeff Hafley there is going to help them out a lot. I think the secondary is still growing. I think Jair Alexander is still amazing.
Yeah.
So having all these still established veterans with a new defensive coordinator is going to really help them out. And when you can be propped up a little bit by the offense, your defense can learn how to play together. The Chiefs did it in 2023. They had to learn the defense had to learn how to play with each other. And once they did, everything started to pick up. So I'm really excited about what the Packers are going to look like this year.
I love it. All right, your third team, most interesting.
We're again with these most interesting teams. I'm getting deep into the muck, deep into the grime here. Give me the Carolina Panthers.
Is that interesting for more of like it could be interesting for how bad they could be, or
no?
what?
I'm actually intrigued by the improvement Bryce Young makes this season. I think Bryce Young is going to improve a lot this year under Dave Canales, and I think Canales has such a good vision and plan for what he wants this Panthers offense to be. I've heard from a lot of people at Carolina Panthers camp. We've heard from Dave Canales speaking at the Combine, and anywhere where you hear him talk about Bryce Young and the improvement he wants to see from his quarterback, he has hammered home one number, 2.7. That is the amount of time he wants the ball to be out of his hands. And that is something that I think is going to help him a lot. I think he got Baker Mayfield to not hold on to the ball and not be a hero. Baker Mayfield always wants to be the hero. And getting Baker Mayfield to not do that is really impressive. And I think they just have a vision for what they want to be offensively. They want to pound the ball offensively on the ground. That's why you go out and sign Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. You want to be physical up front, and you can allow Bryce Young to be kind of more of a point-and-shoot guy. A point-and-shoot guy who can create. That's the biggest thing that you want. You want to be able to get him designated reads outside the pocket. You want to be able to get him clean looks. But when stuff breaks down, he's still shown that ability to move around and create when he needs to. Not only that, but you add in Deontay Johnson, who's going to help out so much in that 2.7 seconds area because you create easy separation. He's going to get easy separation in the short area. I think Xavier Legette is going to be really good downfield. I think whatever happens with Adam Thielen, he is going to create separation. But this offense is really intriguing to me. I don't think they're going to be good. I'm not saying they're going to be good, but they are going to improve. I think the room for improvement is so wide that they are going to improve. They're going to get up off the floor. The defense, of course, you lose Brian Burns, but they had to make a choice. You either pay Derek Brown or pay Brian Burns. And they chose Derek Brown. But keeping Ejiro Evero around was the biggest get for Dave Canales because Ejiro Evero is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. And being able to draw blood from a stone with what the Panthers have trotted out there talent-wise, I think that defense is still going to struggle a little bit. But I'm really intrigued by what this Panthers team looks like now and a couple years into the future.
I think it was you who, you and I were talking about Carolina at one point, and you said if they just like Tua-size the offense, it would help Bryce Young a lot. And I think that we're going to see very similar schematic type things happen in Carolina to what we saw in Miami, where it's 3-step drop release, getting Deontay Johnson, like you pointed out. Deontay Johnson, one of the more underrated receivers in football, one of the better route runners in football, and really good at getting off the line of scrimmage and getting immediate space and getting open. I think that is going to help Bryce Young a ton. And then balancing out with the deep threat in Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen can kind of, we use the term age gracefully into being, a number 2, number 3 option. I do think the offense will be better. They also brought in, some reinforcements up front. I believe they gave Robert Hunt big money this year to keep Bryce Young upright. So that's good to see as well. Defensively, like you said, that's going to be a project. I'm very intrigued to see what this looks like, maybe in 2025 and 26. But this is kind of ground zero for it. And I will agree that they will get better, in large part because it would be hard for them to be worse from what they were last year. And I think having one cook in the kitchen when it comes to Bryce Young will be very beneficial for them. I'm going to stick with a team that I think is going to be, it's a more popular team, but I don't think that I think they're going to be interesting for all the wrong reasons. And I think that team is the Dallas Cowboys. I think that this is kind of the year where I don't want to say the bottom falls out, but we're going to see a lot of resetting in Dallas in 2025. I've said it. I think I've said this since March, and I think you may agree, or I don't know your stance on, but I do think that Dak is going to be playing elsewhere in 2025.
Yeah.
And so with that, I think that all of the distractions from, okay, are they going to pay Dak? What's going to happen with Michael Parsons? Is Mike McCarthy going to be brought back? How about CeeDee Lamb? Defensively, are things going to work with Mike Zimmer now as the defensive coordinator? I think that there's so much noise in Dallas right now, and none of it's good, along with the fact that the biggest move that they made in the offseason was bringing back Ezekiel Elliott. Like, they haven't really done anything in free agency. I don't think they did many notable things in the draft. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But overall, I think that this isn't just, a lame duck head coach. It's not just, a quarterback who's kind of in a lame duck situation to try to get paid. I think this organization as a whole is just kind of in a lame duck year where it feels like a reset, whether it be a hard reset or a soft reset, is on the horizon in 2025. And I think all of that noise will certainly factor into what shows up on the field. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team in 25. I just think that it's just going to be too much of a distraction. I think that is going to really lean into why they will, hit that reset button, why Dak will be playing elsewhere in 25. So they're very intriguing, but I think for all of the not best reasons.
So I tweeted out a couple weeks ago, actually. I think Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones were talking about the contracts they have coming up and how tough it is. And I said, who's going to fix this problem that I created? And that's what it really feels like the Cowboys are. That's where they're at this point. They have to fix the problems they have created. And largely, I think it's because Jerry Jones is saying they are all in for 2024, while everybody else in the front office is planning for 2025 and beyond. I think drafting Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe in the first few rounds, phenomenal picks. Those are picks where Tyler Guyton's going to have to play left tackle immediately, maybe. But if not, that's a pick towards the future. Cooper Beebe, a pick towards the future. So they are building towards 2025. I actually think their best addition of the offseason was bringing back Mike Zimmer. I love Mike Zimmer's defenses, baby. I think I'm so ready for that to come back. I think he's going to help a lot with their linebackers. But the biggest thing is Micah Parsons is doing that I'll play edge, but I'll also play off-ball thing again. Don't do that. No. He is arguably one of the three, not arguably, he is one of the three best edge rushers in football. You leave him on the edge. He is a fine off-ball linebacker. He is an elite pass rusher. You don't want to move those guys around too much. So I wonder what's that's going to look like. But offensively, I largely expect them to remain the same. I feel like Mike McCarthy is Mike McCarthy at this point. Dak is who he is. He is a phenomenal quarterback. I would love to see them be better in the short yardage. That's where I think they can really improve. I think they can really get a whole lot better in terms of being better in the short yardage areas. And I think with adding Tyler Guyton, with adding Cooper Beebe, you have these guys who can be so good in those short yardage run game that they're going to get better running the football between the tackles. They have to in order for that offense to survive.
Yeah. I mean, is it going to be Zeke that's their primary back at this point? Because who else is it going to be? Is it going to be Deuce Vaughn? Like, I really just don't know what they have planned at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what they have planned at running back. That is,
you, the listener, might be the Dallas Cowboys running back by week 1.
Hey, you know what? If the listener wants to show up at where they do their training game, Oxnard still?
Oxnard, California, yeah.
Show up to Oxnard, California in a Cowboys helmet, you might get some snaps at running back. I hope you know the difference between inside zone and duo. So I wonder what's the rotation is going to look like at running back and if they add somebody late during the season. But again, it is who is going to fix the problems that I created. They created that bed for themselves. So now they have to lay in it. And I think that's where they're at going into this season. They are reaping what they have sown.
It's like the what is it, the Stokely Hathaway thing. It's like, despite my own actions, what have I done to deserve this? Like, yeah, dude, you kind of did this to yourself. Regardless, though, I'm going to keep one eye on the Dallas Cowboys throughout the duration of 2024, especially in an NFC East that's just consistently weird. They'll be very intriguing. Your fourth team.
We are getting up out of the muck and getting into the chaos. My most interesting team is the New York Jets.
Oh, all right.
Oh boy, this can fall apart quickly.
I can't believe that they lasted this long. Actually, that's pretty good. This can
be really good, or man, everybody gonna be out of a job. That's where I really think the Jets are, and largely, I can't get behind them as Super Bowl contenders just yet because we are relying on a whole lot of hypotheticals. We are relying on if Aaron Rodgers is back healthy from a torn Achilles at age 41. We are relying on if Aaron Rodgers returns back to MVP form, which is 2 years and a torn Achilles ago.
I was going to say, Patrick Mahomes has won 2 Super Bowls since Aaron Rodgers' last 300-yard passing game.
Yeah, we are relying on if he returns to that MVP form. We're relying on if Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses can stay healthy, which they have not been able to do consistently. We're relying on if Mike Williams can be a reliable and consistent receiving threat and be on the field. Because the biggest problem with the Jets last year was nobody else was on the field along with Garrett Wilson. We are relying on if Nathaniel Hackett is a good offensive coordinator, which to this point has been no. He is not a good offensive coordinator. He is there so he can make Chewbacca sounds to Aaron Rodgers. So we are relying on so many hypotheticals, but at the same time, I find myself talking myself into this team because that defense is going to be the best defense in football. Yeah. They are so talented from top to bottom. Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich have done a great job with that group. And now you have such a dynamic group of pass rushers. And then again, what if Aaron Rodgers is back to 2022 form? Excuse me. Like what the rapport between him and Garrett Wilson before he got hurt was looking really good. What if Garrett Wilson takes that jump into one of the 10 best receivers in football? What if Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith stay healthy? We can say that they are
even if one of them don't. I mean, they drafted Ola Fashanu, right? So I mean, they can kind of shuffle him in.
Yeah, you can. What if Fashanu takes one of those jobs and doesn't give it back?
Yeah,
we are those hypotheticals. Of course, they could go wrong, but what if it doesn't? That's part of the beauty of the Jets. We could be wrong, but what if we're not? So I'm really excited to see what this team looks like because their first 8 games, you go on the road to San Francisco, you're on the road to Tennessee, you got New England, Denver, Minnesota, you got a Monday night game against Buffalo, then you're on the road against Pittsburgh, New England, then a Thursday against Houston. And this is all through the first 9 games. Then you're at Arizona, then you're at home against the Colts, and then you have your bye.
Damn.
I'm not saying it's a murderer's row because there are some difficult games on there. There's an alleyway to them being one of the best teams of football before the bye. Plus, you're able to get Buffalo early at home on Monday night. Like you never know with this team. So I'm so excited to see what they actually look like this year.
Yeah, I think that there's no in between, right? Like it's either they're going to be very good, or by week 8, Aaron Rodgers is going to be on Rogan talking about how like the government hides listening devices inside of cashews or something like that. And they're gonna be 3-6. The sky's falling. Robert Saleh is gonna get fired. They're gonna clean house, and it's just gonna be absolute just a complete shit show by that point. I think it's either they're going to be very good or they're going to be very bad. Not much. I don't think there's going to be an 8-9 season that comes out of this. It'll be 11-6, 12-5, 5-12, starting over.
Again, week 8, they're on the road against New England. I am so curious about that game because that can be the point where, okay, they're actually doing something. Or, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's put all the bows where we need to put them. Let's dot our I's, cross our T's, and start fresh. So this team is so intriguing for both the right and wrong reasons. And that's why we love the Jets.
They never leave us short of talking points. That is for sure. I'm gonna stick in the AFC East though, because I've spent the last handful of years being like, oh my goodness, this team is so boring. I cannot fathom why anybody could ever want to talk about them. But now, I think they have a real offensive coordinator. I think they have a real quarterback who I think is going to be the best quarterback in this class. I think the Patriots are going to be kind of fun. Defensively, they are very good and have been very good over the past couple seasons, but nobody's really noticed it too much outside of New England and in the greater Boston area because they've just been unwatchable at times on offense. They had a stretch last season where I think they held opponents to 10 or fewer points in 3 straight games, and they lost all 3 of those games because their offense was so bad. I think Drake May is going to be awesome. I'm not going to pretend to be, a Drake May savant or a college football savant, but everything that I have seen, since, I started actually looking at these guys in January up until now, I think May is going to be very good. I think an Alex Van Pelt offense will really suit him. And I think they'll do a lot of what Cleveland did last year with Joe Flacco when the time comes is, run the ball really well, utilize play action, and utilize his arm and give him a few shots per game. I like the fact that they went out and got Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. They brought in KJ Osborne as well. Like there's actually has potential to be a really solid receiving core as well. And then defensively, they've got guys at all 3 levels that make you worry and make it hard to score. Getting Christian Gonzalez back from injury, Matt Judon, they've got a bunch of really good guys on that side of the ball. I don't think that they are going to be a playoff contending team, but I think that they can be a very fun team to watch, figure it out, and then by week 15, have it pretty close to figured out, and going into 2025, we can say, okay, the Patriots could be, a wild card contender in the AFC. But I think that they can be a very fun 6-11, 7-10 team in 2024.
So despite all of the offensive issues the Patriots had last year, from week 10 through the rest of the season, they were first in defensive EPA per play.
Absolutely correct.
They were still dominant. Even we can stretch it out to week 8. They were 5th in defensive EPA per play allowed. They were still a very, very good group. And I think even despite losing Christian Barmore, which I hope he gets better, I hope for all the best with him. But
yep.
Defense is still so talented. Anthony Jennings, ass kicker. Matt Judon's going to come back. He's going to be great. Keon White kicks so much ass. They have so many guys that aren't exactly superstars, but are so freaking good at what they do. And then you have such a versatile group where you can have Jelani Tavai line up on the edge, and you don't lose any of the personnel groupings that you have with getting a 5-man surface because you can be so versatile with the guys that you have. And then Christian Gonzalez coming back at corner, going to be huge for them. Kyle Duggar, phenomenal. Marte Mapu played well towards the back end of the season. I'm really excited about what that defense is going to be, and I wonder what DeMarcus Covington and Gerard Mayo's touch on the Belichick defense is going to be. We have seen Belichick defenses be good without Belichick. We've also seen them be very bad without Belichick. I think Brian Flores changed up. He made his own version of the Belichick defense into balls to the wall. We are going to blitz heavy. But I wonder what Gerard Mayo's touch is going to be. What is going to be the Gerard Mayo signature? You can't just trot out the Bill Belichick defense without having Bill Belichick. That's, it's like running the Vic Fangio defense without Vic Fangio. We've seen it not work. But I really am excited about what that defense is going to be. Offensively, even if Drake May doesn't start early, I think he should. But
I agree.
I think that offense is going to be really intriguing. I wonder what the offensive line rotation is going to be like, but Ramondre Stevenson's going to go off in this offense. I think Alex Van Pelt has done such a good job of designing this offense to be similar to Cleveland, a lot of play action, a lot of boot, and I think that benefits both Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. I love Javon Baker. I think he is during the draft process, I called him a super version of Michael Gallup. His ability to go up and get the ball despite only being like 6 feet, 6'1". Like you normally expect him to play like a guy who's like 6'2", 6'3", but he's only 6'1". So having him as a super complimentary receiver on the outside, Jalen Polk can play anywhere. He's probably going to play on the outside. You allow Kendrick Bourne to assume the role that he is really good at, which is being a really good slot receiver. Like he is a very good slot receiver. And I think now that you have him in his defined role, the offense sort of mimics the defense, and they don't have superstars. They have a bunch of guys who are very good at what they do. They have very good specialties, So I think they're going to start off slow because if you're playing a rookie, it's going to look slow. Sure. It's going to look discombobulated a little bit. They're really young, but you expect this team to be competitive fun. You can't be bad and not fun.
Yeah.
You have to choose one. You can either be bad or you can be fun. Like you can't be both. You can be good. You can be good and boring. You can be good and fun. You can be bad and fun. You can't be bad and boring.
Yeah, very much agreed. I was on Taylor Kyle's show and I was talking to him about Javon Baker, and I think the comp that I gave Baker was Claudio Castagnoli, where like he might not be like the biggest dude in the world, but then I mean Claudio's big, but like he's not like a big show like Paul White, 7 feet tall guy. But then you see the things he does in the ring, where he's just throwing dudes in the air and hitting with uppercuts or swinging them around by their feet. You're like, oh, okay, this dude can play above his size. So I think that Javon Baker has a little bit of Claudio Castagnoli in him.
Yeah, good friend of mine, Tyler Fornes. He said he is chopped and screwed Jamar Chase. So he is Jamar Chase on if you turn it down to like 0.25 speed, playback speed. Like you look really close. It's like, hey, that guy looks similar. But I think he has that ability to be a ball winner on the outside that will really benefit a young quarterback. If you really want to help your young quarterback succeed, you want to give him guys who can turn those 50-50s into like 60-40s. And you can do that by going up and get the ball or creating so much separation that nobody's in the picture.
Absolutely. All right, your fifth and final team that you are very interested in.
All right, still out of the muck. Still going to choose a team that we're staying in the AFC, but this is a team I'm very intrigued by going into this year after a phenomenal regular season. The Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens are so intriguing because Lamar Jackson won MVP last year despite having his tackles rotate in like every drive. Like I don't think people noticed how bad the Ravens offensive line had gotten when it comes to injuries, that they were rotating guys in every drive. Ronnie Stanley was on a pitch count towards the end of the season. That offensive line wasn't exactly great, and they didn't really do much to improve it. But they
lost a lot of guys up front, actually.
I'm still so intrigued by year 2 of the Monken offense. And now you add Derrick Henry to that, who I think is the perfect complement to Lamar's running style, where now you have to worry about both. You have to worry about the jab with Derrick Henry getting 4 yards of carry. And then you also have to worry about the haymaker with Lamar pulling the ball and escaping for 15 yards. And then you add in, if Keaton Mitchell comes back healthy, you have that lightning. And then you have on the outside, I think Zay Flowers is going to be better this year, especially as he was a rookie and still good last year. Rashad Bateman is going to be a quality second piece. Mark Andrews coming back healthy. I think Isaiah Likely is awesome.
He is.
So I really do want to see what year 2 of the Monken offense looks like. Defensively, you lose Mike McDonald, so you wonder how much of the juice is gone. but they just promoted from in-house. Zach Orr, who I've heard a lot about. I've heard a lot of great things about Zach Orr, and
he used to play in Baltimore, did he not?
He used to play in Baltimore. He was the linebackers coach under Mike McDonald, and now you are basically promoting Roquan Smith to defensive coordinator. You are promoting a guy who works with Roquan Smith into that role. Trenton Simpson's going to be replacing Patrick Queen, and they kind of play the same way. If you watch Trenton Simpson in college, that looks like Patrick Queen. But now you're going to have a defensive secondary that's going to be healthy. Kyle Hamilton in another year. I think the Ravens are still going to be very good, but the difference between very good and Super Bowl could be hinging on the offensive line that needs to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I think that's where I kind of lean is I think they are going to take a step back, which, I mean, going 14-3 a year ago, it's hard to replicate that. I think that they're going to be a good regular season team as they usually are, as long as Lamar's healthy throughout the entire year. But once they get into the playoffs, that's when I'm like, all right, I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. They are fascinating to me because of that. Like, I think that last year was their best shot at getting to a Super Bowl with this group, especially because of how great that defense was. And, you look at the pieces that they have lost with, Queen being gone. They lose Geno Stone as well in division to Cincinnati, Mike McDonald going to Seattle. And then a lot of guys up front, leaving Kevin Zeitler now in Detroit. So definitely a lot of changes being made. But I think they're still going to be one of those teams in the regular season that we talk about from week 1 to 18 as being, okay, Baltimore looks solid and will likely be, at minimum a 9-win team, maximum, going to be a playoff team, find their way into the dance. But once they get into the playoffs, that's where I'm like, okay, we're going to see, what they're really made of and how much different this team is from 2023. My final team, I'm going to go with a team that I think is just going to be interesting because there is, I think there's a lot weighing on the front office of this team and the head coach as well. I think he's very much on a do or die type year. And that's the Chicago Bears, where, they've made a lot of really good moves this offseason. Ryan Poles, bringing in Keenan Allen, drafting Rome Dunze to go along with DJ Moore, and you give Caleb Williams that type of arsenal right off the bat. I love the hire of Shane Waldron as well as at offensive coordinator. And defensively, they have guys that I really like. Like Montez Sweat was acquired at the deadline last year and led them in sacks. Jalen Johnson, one of the better cornerbacks in football, and he got paid. I think Jaquan Brisker is a very fun safety. Tyreek Stevenson as well in the secondary. And then Tremaine Edmonds in the middle. Like, they have guys at each level that are good and intrigue me for different reasons. So this is very much a year for Matt Eberflus, though, where you got to prove something because it's been very mediocre in the first 2 seasons, and you gotta do something. I think a lot of people expected him to be gone after this past season. They kept him around, and now he's coming in rocking a good fade and a good beard, and the vibes seem immaculate in Chicago. To me, they're kind of a sleeper team to maybe go like 9-8 and sneak in as the number 7 seed in the playoffs in the NFC. It all depends on how good Caleb is, though, and how quickly that offense can get in sync. I think the defense is going to be good, and all of that, like I said, is going to hinge on how fast Caleb can become a quality quarterback and how much of a quality quarterback he can be throughout 18 weeks.
So I have a couple questions about the Bears, and the first one, let me start off by saying, in the same metric where the Patriots were first in defensive EPA per play allowed from week 10 throughout the rest of the season, the Bears were third. They had a dominant finish to end the season. But my biggest question is, can a secondary pass rusher opposite Montez Sweat step up? Because you can't just have Montez Sweat be your only consistent pass force generator. Right. I think Gervon Dexter is going to be that guy. I think he has to be from the interior. I was
going to say they have him playing in the middle.
That the way Matt Eberflus plays the cover 2, you think about all the great cover Tampa 2 defenses and how good they are in the middle. You think about DeForest Buckner in Indianapolis. They went out and traded for DeForest Buckner while Matt Eberflus was there to give him that guy. And now you're hoping Gervon Dexter can become that interior force in the middle. I think Tyreek Stevenson is also on track for a big breakout year. I mean, he finished the season pretty well, but he is perfect fit for that Tampa 2 defense. So physical up front, and you're able to keep everything in front of him. My next big question for the Bears is, can the offensive line protect Caleb Williams? I think they have a couple of nice pieces. Darnell Wright, really fun. Tevin Jenkins is good when he's healthy, but outside of that, I still got a lot of questions. Braxton Jones, I think, is a fine left tackle. I think you can improve, but I think he is fine. But it's fine won't be good enough for Caleb Williams. And how much is Caleb Williams a force multiplier to the point where you can mask some of that offensive line issues? I think Shane Waldron's going to be really good. I was actually surprised Shane Waldron didn't get a lot more looks as a coordinator. I think he was a good coordinator in Seattle, but now he has a whole bunch of receivers who complement each other very well. DJ Moore is going to be the downfield explosive guy. I mean, he is so good at generating those explosive plays. Keenan Allen is going to be the easy separator. You're going to get him to it's 3rd and 5 in his man coverage. You draw it up for Keenan. And then Roma Dunze is going to be kind of that in-between guy, but he's going to be able to grow into that top receiver that they need. And I think the rapport between Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams is going to grow as the both of them grow throughout their first season. So they're going to be really exciting. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the sneaky 7 seed in the NFC. But again, can the offensive line protect Caleb Williams? And also, how much is Caleb Williams a difference over Justin Fields in that department when it comes to mitigating sacks, mitigating chaotic plays?
Yeah, and they brought in somebody else. I think they brought in somebody from Buffalo on the offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, whose name is currently escaping me. But I want to say they brought in somebody else on the offensive line. But I could be wrong.
I mean, Doug Kramer, maybe?
Maybe. I might have to go back and look. Maybe I'm thinking of your Jaguars bringing in Mitch Morse. Maybe that's what's sneaking past me. Like I said, a lot of their success is going to, like most franchises, it's going to hinder down to how good is the quarterback. And obviously Caleb is being billed as, this generational prospect. But, even for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, sticking with your Jaguars, obviously very different circumstances in year one for Trevor to Caleb. But we've seen that, even if you do start off slow, that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be horrible. And I think that Caleb is being given so many, all of the tools that he needs to succeed, in large part because the Bears realized, okay, we can't do this again. We saw what happened with Justin Fields. We didn't give him enough, and now he's in Pittsburgh. We got to surround this dude with as much talent as humanly possible. And they've done a very good job at doing that. So I think they're going to be very fun. I'm not going to be, an Adam Rank and predict them to go 12-5, but I think that they will be. I think they'll be good. I don't think that they will be great. I think that they can be, hovering in that wild card, bubble and be, an 8-9 win team and maybe sneak in and at least give us an entertaining wild card game against Philadelphia. Maybe that would be a fun watch.
Yeah, I think the goal for them should be to see growth from the rookies, and if that growth helps them get from what they finished 7-10 last year.
Yeah.
If they can get from 7-10 to 9-8 via that, then that's perfect. You've set the foundation for your next few years, but you have to see growth from all the rookies this year. It cannot be another year of 7-10.
Absolutely. Some honorable mentions being thrown out. Adam highlights the Titans might be sneaky good on the moves that they made in free agency. The Titans are interesting to me, man, because I do applaud what they did, being like, all right, we're going to figure out how good Will Levis is, and we're going to figure it out quick. I think the Brian Callahan hire was a good one, but yeah, it just comes down to, all right, is Will Levis a capable NFL quarterback or is he not?
I also think it comes down to, can Bill Callahan revamp that offensive line? Because one of the things that stood out about Tennessee last year and for the past few years actually is the constant deterioration of the offensive line. Their offensive line play has got to the point where it was really bad. So now you add Bill Callahan, you add in J.C. Latham, and your hope is Bill Callahan can be enough of a floor raiser to make that offense competent. And I think he can be, but like you said, it depends on Will Levis. I want to believe in Will Levis, but there's so much The gap between good Will Levis and catastrophic Will Levis is not very big. There's no margin where he's just okay. It's either he is phenomenal or he's throwing picks, getting himself into sacks.
I'm laughing because when you said I want to believe in, I thought you were going to say Joe Hendry for some reason, but
no, I always believe in Joe Hendry.
I always believe in Joe Hendry. Yeah, I want that to become the rally cry of the Tennessee Titans, where it's I believe in Will Levis. I think that would be very fun. Yeah,
the Titans aren't cool enough to do that.
Not quite yet, not yet. But if Will Levis ends up being good, then I'll talk to Big Titan and see if we can make that happen. Maybe have Joe Hendry do something at a Titans game. We'll have their people contact his people. Very good stuff. Any other honorable mentions you have in your mind?
I'm getting back into the muck for this one. The New Orleans Saints. I am so curious because that offense is going to look so different. And Talifuaga is moving to left tackle after playing right tackle his entire career at Oregon State. And Trevor Penning, who was really bad at left tackle, is moving to right tackle because Ryan Ramchek's going to be out for the year. But Chris Olave, still amazing. Still an awesome receiver.
Love Chris Olave.
Really interesting. A.T. Perry is kind of fun. I'm avoiding quarterback.
Right? Wake Forest, right? A.T. Perry?
Love A.T. Perry. I'm avoiding the quarterback for very obvious reasons. Alvin Kamara can be fun. Jamal Williams is awesome. One of my favorite people in the league.
What are the odds 1 to 10 Spencer Rattler is the starter by the end of the year?
If 1 is no chance in hell, 10 is a certainty. I'm gonna say a 6.
Oh, okay. I think I'm probably right around there too. I think bringing in Clint Kubiak will be very good for the offense. Absolutely. They are boring, and Dennis Allen is not a good head coach. And you would be hard found to find him saying something nice about one of his players this offseason, because every clip I see of Dennis Allen is just him shitting on somebody who's trying to make the roster. Like, yeah, he's always hurt. He's got to get out there if he wants to have a job. Like, all right, dude, Christ, you're not supposed to say that out loud.
Dennis Allen may not be a great head coach, but that defense is still amazing.
Good defensive coordinator.
Even though they have
example of that.
That defense is aging. They still finish top 10 in EPA per play post week 10. You know, I think Demario Davis is still amazing. Brian Brzee can be really fun. He might take a step up this year. And Paulson Adebo, who is really good.
Very quietly one of the better cornerbacks in football, Paulson Adebo.
Quietly very good. Marshawn Lattimore is still amazing. One of my favorite man corners to watch in the league. They can be – in the NFC South, they can be something.
Yeah, it certainly helps that they play in that division, yes.
Yeah, nobody's still – Atlanta made all the big name moves, but you still need somebody to step up in that division.
Yeah.
So that's why they remain intriguing to me. They present the most veteran-laden option outside of Tampa and Atlanta to win the division.
I was talking to Aaron Schatz when he was on the show a few weeks ago, and they have the Saints projected as, you know, more wins than was expected. And the thing that he said is, like, people don't talk about the Saints because they are so boring. They're boring, but they're not bad. They're just a mediocre, boring team.
Yeah, again, you can't be bad and boring.
Yeah.
They are boring, but they're okay.
They're fine. Yeah, they are the I'm trying to think of like something that's perfectly just mid. They are the what is something that's perfectly just in the middle, not great, not bad, just fine. They're the Cheerios of the NFL.
I feel that.
Not Honey Nut Cheerios, just Cheerios. Like they're
just Cheerios.
Yeah, they're cardboard. They
are a reflection of their quarterback and their coach.
Yes, very much so.
Derek Carr is below average to average. He can be above average, but he hamstrings himself. It is 3rd and 8, and you are throwing a 2-yard check down.
Yeah, not great.
What are you doing? You play football like you have 6 downs.
And like his stat line last year looks a lot better than what he actually looked like. I think he had 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, but there was very little aggression in that offense. And the chemistry with Chris Olave was very much off all year. So hopefully they can find a way to kindle that and have Derek Carr playing to, Raiders level Derek Carr that, when he was a Pro Bowler in his final season in Vegas. So we'll see what comes of it. JP Acosta, what have you got coming for the good folks on SBNation.com?
So I got a series called The Worst Generation it's called The Worst Generation, but it's about the breakout players in 2024. We have three of our six breakout players already in. Gervon Dexter from the Chicago Bears, Keanu Benton of your Pittsburgh Steelers, and Arizona Cardinals tight end Trey McBride. So we're going to be updating that as often as possible to get all the Worst Generation characters in there. And I'm going to be covering the Olympics, going to be covering college football, NFL football. So just follow me at Acosta32_JP, JP Acosta32 on Threads. Just see what I'm doing.
Why'd you call it the Worst Generation? Was there like something behind that?
One Piece, though. So there's a group of young pirates in One Piece called the Worst Generation. They have $100 million bounties, and they're all incredibly strong, but they're all viewed as the next generation of super strong, super powerful pirates.
Okay. So the graphic, it wasn't Sea of Thieves based. That's what I thought it was.
No, it was based on One Piece.
Okay. All right. Because I saw it, I was like, oh, JP plays Sea of Thieves. Rad. All right. I was a little bit off.
I would play Sea of Thieves, but it's based on One Piece.
Okay. I got you. In terms of me, I'm working on two different pieces, one based around the Cowboys, one based around like a peek behind the curtain of what goes into the negotiations of big money contracts. So I'm talking to several different agents, NFL personnel people, former GMs, just kind of gathering up the information for both of those. The stuff on the Cowboys in particular, I think is very, very good. And got one quote that really sticks out to me in the piece. So those will be coming out in the coming days and weeks, I would say. But two things I'm pretty proud of. And go read the rest of the written work at Sporting News, all the Steelers coverage behind the steel curtain. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Subscribe, you heathens. Cross the 1,200 subscriber mark. So that's neat. Try to get to 2,000 before the end of the year. That's a fun goal to have. It's less than 800. So subscribe, listen to the Pump Fake wherever you get your podcasts. JP, as always, my friend, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, or listening. However you are making us part of your day, we very much appreciate you. We'll see you next time on the Pump Fake. Take care.